Welcome back to another week of Beyond the Bizarre. Brianna here,
Sarah as well.
and we're so happy to be back with you guys for another week to share and two urban legends. Well, actually, one small town haunt and one urban legend. This episode, we're going to be talking about Hell's Gate Bridge, located in Oxford, Alabama, and the Hookman.
Yes, I'm excited because the Hookman's like my favorite. I mentioned that at the first episode. So,
Yes, yes,
but
it's definitely a classic. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. It's kind of like the one that kind of sucked me in to everything
absolutely.
else I know about urban legends and stuff.
Right. I mean, I'm sure if we were like to randomly ask people, I'm sure everyone's heard of the Hookman. It's like it's all over the place, but
Yeah.
we'll get to that later.
Yes, yes, most definitely, especially with all the different variations. But as Sarah
Mhm.
said, we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's start with Hell's Gate Bridge. So, Hell's Gate Bridge, like I said, is located in Oxford, Alabama on Boiling Springs Road.
Oh, okay. That's
Yes. Yeah, it looks like it's a little bit of a ghost story. It originated in the 1950s about this bridge that was built around 1930. And looks like
Mhm.
as of 1992, it's kind of been out of commission.
Really, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So it looks like the lore on it kind of originated around the 60s. So kind of like, 10 years after the um 10 years kind of after the bridge was well, not 10 years after the bridge was built, but like,
Mhm.
it took about 10 years for the ghost story to kind of circulate, which it
Mhm.
seems crazy because it's like now things can be online and it's just like within 30 minutes is viral.
Oh my God.
Like
Yeah.
like a long time ago, like it took 10 years for things to reach viral status. So it's
And
just
before
crazy.
that, like, they had they had the phones with cords, and then before that it was just by mail. Like, yeah, we've come a long way, folks.
Yes, like yeah, like telegrams and stuff like
Mhm.
that, like Morse code.
The British are coming. Like five
Yes.
minutes back. I mean, if we're gonna go way, way back, because I do that sometimes, ramble.
Yes. Yes, yes, it's just so amazing. Like when I was researching this, I was like, wow, we've come a really long way. Like now things can go viral in like 5 minutes, especially like on apps like TikTok and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And trend on Twitter. Like it's crazy. You can just
Hmm.
do something and then it's just like a domino effect. So
It
yeah.
really is. Yes, yes. So, Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the lore of Hell's Gate Bridge?
Well, according to the lore, um, during the 1950s, a young couple's car drove off of a bridge and into the waters of the I'm probably gonna butcher this, but Chocoloco Creek below. Sorry guys if I mispronounced that. Um, and ever since that night, the bridge has been haunted by the couple. And according to the legend, if you drive on the bridge, stop your car, and turn off the lights, one
Ooh.
of the two, one of the couple will enter your vehicle. Their presence, will be known by a wet spot on your seat. And, they'll either be like beside you or in the back seat. You may hear them or see them. You'll feel their presence there. And like the bridge was named Hell's Gate Bridge from the experience that many people have had over the years. When you stop on the bridge and you glance down, like when you look over your shoulder at the road behind you, it's been said you'll see the fiery gates of hell at the bridge.
Oh, hell no.
Um, there isn't any known correlation between the two legends. However, it does make you like ponder if, this vision of the inferno that people have been saying is caused by the young couple. Like, are they a demonic duo? Who knows? And, like maybe like their souls were damned because they met an untimely demise. Like, it's fascinating how like the other side works essentially, like, as we've seen in different pop cultures, like spirits go crazy for being on earth for so long. So like I think it's plausible. Maybe they just become like the ultimate demonic duo, like extreme Bonnie and Clyde.
That does like give one thought on that. Yes, definitely. Um Also it could be like what if this firing in front of this vision of the gates of hell, like what if it's been around for like a long time, and that could have been like what the couple saw that made them like run off the road and
Mhm.
essentially fall to their deaths. So that could be another thing too. It's kind of like different ways you can look at it. It's really cool.
It is. It's super cool. Or like, this is totally out there, but like what if they like summon something they weren't supposed to and like, they like end up dying because of it or like the sky's the limit, guys. Just use your imagination on this one, honestly. Um yeah.
Yeah, that's I didn't think about that. That's see, because people out here be playing with them spirit boards and all this different stuff. Like, because like I mean, yes, they're all fun in theory, but some things I'm a firm believer in. You have to be careful if you don't 100% understand it. Please don't dabble in it because it's just it will open up a world of hurt.
Yes, like do your research if you are into the occult and everything. Just don't jump into it. It's something that you want to like dip your toes into and actually talk to experts and because like with a Ouija board and stuff, it's very precarious. It can go wrong very fast. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what me and Bree are saying. Just be very cautious on that because you don't want to summon something that this couple could have summoned, like opened the gates of hell indirectly. Like, no one wants that. So, or if you do, then, you're a sucky person. But,
Yes, I was gonna make a joke, but I refrained from it.
right.
I was gonna say, like, if you did open up the gates of hell, then most likely, chances are you could be a Winchester.
Oh my God, right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how many times have they like bargained with hell or heaven? Like it's a Winchester deal.
Yes. Yes. But as
Absolutely.
for the Hell's Gate Bridge, it has been closed and actually been blockaded for a while now since 1992. But of course, some people, still, enthusiastic about the legend, cross the bridge by foot, but they do so at their own risk. They're pretty much told not to, but you can't really stop people from being curious.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of one of those people. We we've discussed this.
Yeah.
So Bree and I were talking about like I had recently watched Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and I saw myself as the girl who takes the witch's book. And my friend agreed when we watched it together. She's like, "Yeah, I wouldn't have gone into that house with you because I knew you'd take the book. You're just like that girl." I'm like, "Thanks. I'll be sure to mention that to Bree. She'll agree. She's the same way."
Yes, it's so very true. It's so very true. That be like, tell me a story. Then I'll be freaking out when everything starts happening. Like I had nothing to do with any of this happening.
Right? Like, why is this happening to me? I didn't I mean, I wanted to know more about this, but it's not like I egged this entity on or anything.
Yes. And that movie kind of made me upset because of how her family, how what was her name? Crap.
Hmm.
The so-called witch in Scary Stories. I forgot her name.
Sarah, of course. Of course her name has to be Sarah, Hocus Pocus and I mean, maybe I'm a witch, guys. Okay, sorry.
I'm gonna get put on my best Hagrid voice.
You're
You're a witch, Sarah.
perfect.
Yeah, but like I was mad because like how her family treated her because she knew what they were doing to the water in the town. And they kind of painted this whole entire like pretty much painted this whole entire narrative around her that wasn't true. So of course when she died, she ended up being a very vengeful spirit. And that's kind of like what we were talking about, how she stayed on earth for so long and she pretty much died in a place of anger. So it was just like really negative for her.
Yeah, as Dean says, spirits go squirrely. They just they lose it after a while. Just happens.
This is very true. This is very true. And but the story about Hell's Gate Bridge is really cool. Like I said, it's in Oxford, Alabama. So if anyone's down there or traveling, and if anyone has it's gutsy enough to walk on the bridge, and if they see anything, let us know. Because I mean,
Absolutely.
Sarah may do it, but I'm not doing it. I don't want to see the gates.
Sarah kind of takes some risks sometimes. I mean, not with her own life, but when it comes to things like this, yeah, sure. She'll do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so actually it's really cool because a lot of these urban legends do include like couples, and which leads us to our next kind of urban legend. We're going to talk about the
Dun,
Hookman.
dun,
Dun
dun.
dun dun.
Yeah. I mean, we need some intro music.
We do. I will work on that.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just make our own for now.
Yes. Yeah, so the Hookman, it's a urban legend that's probably shared worldwide, but
Hmm.
most of the variations that I've heard have originated in the United States.
Hmm. Yeah, they mentioned something in the United Kingdom, but it's just variation,
Ooh.
like, how the body of the boyfriend hangs, which is weird. Like, I mean, in one instance, he's like hanging upside down with his head touching the roof, which
Yeah.
after the hook man is brutally slaughtered him.
Mm.
And the girlfriend has stayed in the car and she's like, "Oh, like he's been gone forever. Let me just go poke my head out and see what's going on, especially because I keep hearing this scratching noise." And what it turns out to be like, is pretty much like, I think it's in one tale, it's like his fingers are touching the roof. That's in, I believe that was in I'm not mistaken, I thought that was in Germany, and then in the United Kingdom, I thought it was like where there was a thump, and it was like his head hit the
Yeah.
top of the bar. But anyway, I mean that was just something that like briefly I saw like just in those two locations. So it's not super worldwide. I think it was something that like originated in the US, like
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
to.
because yeah, definitely it's morbid enough to originate in the United States.
Yeah, well, I think it was to teach teens abstinence, like.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had to take a deep breath on that because the whole entire like the whole entire like obsession with
Mhm.
just purity and all that stuff was just like blown
Yeah,
way out of proportion. It led to a whole generation like pretty much being like
so
holy
toxic.
rollers, yeah, in terms of like anything sexual. So it's just
And it just makes them want to be more freaky. Like, come on.
yeah, and they have them out there in the woods getting slaughtered.
Mhm. Right. So, yeah, like that I feel like that's why this originated. Also, it's been linked, well, actually based on like real events, like I actually did watch this movie recently that I think I always have the hardest time pronouncing this, but I think it's the Texas Arcana.
Texarkana. I
Yes.
heard about that. Yeah.
Yes, I watched that like yesterday and wow, that was, oh my God, it was intense. I can't even tell you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because in 1946 they had the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. Kind of it
Yeah.
was like a lover's lane type of thing. So yeah, so the Hookman legend could have definitely been inspired by that since the
Mhm.
legend kind of began circulating around the 1950s. So shortly after the 1946 murders there. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like in the beginning of the film, there's a couple, and like you can tell, they want to leave the movie and like, have a little sexy time. And, they were into it until the girl's not, because she's like, hey, like some dude's staring at me, and dude's like, oh, there's no one there. And then it's like, yeah, there is. Like, can you stop macking on me and look out the window?
Yeah. That's what oh I was see I had to round myself back in for a minute.
Right. Be like, listen here. I know what I saw.
Yes. My eyes will not lie to me.
Right.
Yeah, so with the Hookman lore, so the kind of like as we
Mhm,
were as we were just saying, kind of like the basic premise for it involves a young couple,
mhm,
cuddling, having some sexy time in the car with the radio playing. And
mhm.
then there's a news announcement that reports that a serial killer with a hook has just escaped from a nearby institution.
Cool. Mhm.
For of course naturally they decide to leave, get the haul ass get out there as soon as possible. And in the end, kind of the basic urban legend, once they get back to the woman's house, the killer's hook is either found hanging from the door handle or embedded in the door itself. So the kind of like the premise, the base legend, neither one of them get killed, but the hook is there. But of course, as we stated, the different variations goes into either both of the couple, both the man and the woman getting killed, or just the
Mhm.
usually sometimes the boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly. There's some where it's like the man leaves to confront the figure, and
Hmm.
then like that figure suddenly disappears, almost like, an entity or whatever. And so
Hmm.
like the dude's like, "Hey, maybe I just imagined it." And he goes back to the car. So, like, yeah, plot twist. We were talking about the boyfriend dying. Like, the woman is murdered with the hook, actually. Like, there's all kinds of versions of this, guys. I mean, it's just fascinating, like how we were talking about in the first episode, how like different lores can just be variated over time, like
Hmm.
different legends and everything. Everybody has their different take on it. Like the first version, of the Hookman is more like family friendly and like, oh, because you guys like abstained from sex, like you're safe now because you like drove off, like instead of staying there where you could have been brutally murdered for having sex.
Yes, yes. It's just crazy. Like there's some of the lore that has like the guy's bodies like nailed to the tree and mutilated,
Mhm.
or one they were driving through the country and their car breaks down and he gets out to go get help and doesn't make it back, of course, and that leads into the mutilation theme as well. Then there's
Mhm.
one where he just gets out the car to use the restroom, and he
Yeah.
doesn't make it back, and that ties into the whole blood dripping on the roof of the car, or his nails or head scraping the top of the
God,
car.
now that you mentioned that, like core memory unlocked, like I was thinking of once again mentioning scary stories to tell in the dark. I used to read those books as a kid, and I remember reading about the Hookman and like there was, talking about the tapping, and it turned out to be like just blood dripping from like this poor victim. It was crazy. I was like, this is in a kid's book? Like,
Right.
yeah, like, all right then.
We were so desensitized as youth. That's the reason why I don't think anything really scares us now, because we were so like desensitized to it from all this like media and movies and books that we read growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, from what I've looked into too, I mean, we've researched this a lot. There's also one more variation of this, where, the woman is discovered by the police and,
Oh
she's
yeah.
warned not to look behind her because if she does so, then she'll see the grisly aftermath of, like her boyfriend's murder, so it's almost like out of sight, out of mind. Like if she doesn't like check on, like where her man went, then like, oh, he'll be okay. But then like if she looks, it's like the freaking entity is like egging her on, like taunting her or something.
Yes, yes, I heard about that one too. And I think that also kind of plays into like, back then that time women were deemed especially fragile, so they wanted to protect women from everything. So I think
Mhm.
that also leads into then I think that she's mentally strong enough to handle seeing something like that, so just don't look back. Like if
Right.
someone tells me not to look back, I'm looking back because I'm like, what are you looking at?
Yeah, that'd be me. I'm like, I control freak. I need to know my surroundings, please. Like, yeah.
Like, for all I know, you could be the killer. Like,
Exactly. That's what the killer would say.
exactly. Follow the rules, the screen rules that we talked about last episode. I'm telling you.
Yes, right. I mean, it's true, guys. Like, that's why I mean, like, from what I've seen, the most popular legend of the Hookman is like they escape because, they abstained from sex, so they survived. Yay.
And they do tell us like, don't go up to Lover's Lane, the hook man's gonna get you, all this stuff. And like I said, it kind of makes this whole entire like
Yeah.
it's just kind of puts this whole entire like false narrative out there, about like sexual relations and all this stuff, like, it's punishable by death. And then like even it's like I said, the scary movies play into that as well, because we all know when someone in scary movies have sex, they die. Like we know that.
Yeah, they do. Oh man. Yeah. It's just really silly to like think about too because and if you like see it, you do see variations of, like in that theme where like a couple goes out and like they're gonna go make out or whatever, and then, you see in horror movies it seems like one of them dies. So it's like I think that inspired like the Hookman inspired a lot of different scenes in horror movies like that and in shows like
Yes.
mhm.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that a little bit later. But with
Mhm.
the origin of the Hookman, so the origin is kind of a little bit unknown, but per folklorist Jan Harold Brunvand, the story did begin circulating as early as the 1950s. So, like I said earlier, kind of a little bit after that, the 1946 Texarkana Moonlight Murders.
Mhm.
So in her book, The Vanishing Hitchhiker: American Urban Legends and Their Meanings, um, Jan had said that the legend kind of was started by teenagers and as early as around 1959 and gained popularity in the 1960s. So it was kind of around that same time where, the Hell's Gate Bridge stuff was going on. So a lot of teens are making up a lot of urban legends. And it's surprising that this kind of started with by teenagers, probably because something they were told by their parents, of course, and it would just spread it amongst the youth.
Yeah, and who doesn't love, like campfire stories? Like, of course, there's that whole like cliche of we have to tell a scary story because we're on a campfire and it's super
Mhm.
quiet.
Yes, it's about I tell those stories and get laid too, because like fear is just y- you know.
Mhm.
Um, so let's see. So actually, the first known publication of the legend was in an Dear Abby column in 1960. So
Mhm.
the Vice column. I haven't seen the Vice column in so long. I guess now the comment sections on Instagram and um and
Like,
TikTok are now advice columns.
indeed, or Google, like, hey Google, is this like okay? I'm like,
Am
or
I
Reddit
crazy?
if you're super morbid, like we've joked about.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's so true. Yeah, so in Dear Abby, this following article was printed. So it said, Dear Abby, if you're interested in teenagers, you will print this story. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it doesn't matter because it served its purpose for me. A fellow and his date pulled into their favorite lover's lane to listen to the radio and do a little necking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. the, the music was interrupted by an announcer who said that there was an escaped convict in the area who had served time for rape and robbery. He was described as having a hook instead of a right hand. The couple became frightened and drove away. When the boy took his girl home, he went around to open the car door for her. Then he saw a hook on the door handle. I will never park to make out as long as I live. I hope this does the same for other kids. And it's from Jeanette.
Right. Like, okay, maybe somebody like pulled the ultimate prank on you.
No, talk about abstinence campaign if I ever saw one.
Right. I mean, that's wow. That's overboard right there. If someone really did like try to prank someone like that.
Right? I mean, I would have done that.
Depending on the person. Like, come on.
Hmm.
Make them traumatized to not kiss another person. Gosh.
Right? Like, geez.
Yeah, it's pretty harsh.
So, Sarah, as you mentioned earlier, the Hookman
Mhm.
is throughout a lot of pop culture.
Mhm. Yeah, you see like the kind of archetype, and I know what you did last summer with the whole raincoat and kind of like the fisherman vibe in a way, because they did say like part of the lore, I don't know if we mentioned this, but they had said like in a variation the hookman can be like a fisherman kind of type, like
Yeah.
the hand is replaced, with a hook, obviously, and they wear a raincoat, because I guess they just go everywhere and it rains or whatever. Or fishermen wear a raincoat, whatever. I'm rambling. Um, but yeah, that's just one variation. Also the Candyman, he had a hook and everything and was just like totally murdering people.
Yes.
Um, I don't
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I'm just gonna like kind of scoot in here.
No, you're fine. I was like,
No,
go ahead. And I was like, I feel like I'm just gonna keep like coming at the wrong time.
no, you're fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the two themes I find that's fascinating about both Candyman and I Know What You Did Last Summer is they're
Mhm.
kind of like revenge tales. Like the
Yeah.
kids and I Know What You Did Last Summer, they hit this man, leave him for dead and everything, and then of course he
Mhm.
comes back and takes them out.
Mhm.
And then the Candyman, like, he was killed just because of who he loved, and now he
Yeah.
comes back and takes vengeance on whoever utters his name in the
Mhm.
mirror. So it's kind of like they're both like spirits of vengeance. So it's so this
Yeah.
is not necessarily like an actual like it's kind of like more like spirits instead of like
Right.
actual people. So I love that they took that spin on the legend instead of it actually being some like person from a sanitarium.
Yeah, I mean, like they have the aspects of the Hookman, but like it's completely different in its way. Or, with I Know What You Did Last Summer and everything, the vengeance thing. Maybe they were just mad that like these people, looked so good and like were
Yes.
together. I mean, some of them. I think there were couples. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, there were couples, and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Hmm. Yes, I was younger. I loved that. I loved the whole franchise when I was younger.
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic. It's so good. I'll have to rewatch it, especially since we've talked about this.
Most definitely, yes. And then there was another film, the 1998 film Urban Legends.
Ooh, ooh. I
I
love
love
that.
that. Yes, I love that. And it actually had the Hookman scene in that movie. Of course, with a bunch of other urban legends, and it's kind of just like been done in me. That following year, there was actual film called Lover's Lane, which also had the Hookman character in it as well.
Oh, cool. I haven't seen that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, Lover's Lane kind of skipped under my radar too. I haven't seen that. I might have to see if Tubi or like Prime or somewhere has it.
hmm Well, also in Supernatural, season one, episode seven, Hookman, as it is titled. A couple, they're at a party and everything, and they get away and go out on a 9-mile road, and of course things start getting a little steamy and they want to make out. Well, unbeknownst to them, there is the spirit of Jacob Carnes, who was a naughty man. I'll get to that in just a minute. He was watching them from the trees, and like they're into it. They don't know yet, but suddenly they hear a loud scratching noise, and so the boyfriend's like, all right, let me just go check that out since you're kind of freaked out." So like the girlfriend's a little worried. She's just looking around because she can't find him after, a bit. And there's loud banging and scratching that comes from the roof of the car. And, when the scratching finally stops, the girlfriend, Lori, she gets out of the car and she starts to run because she's freaked out. Well, she turns around and she sees her boyfriend Rich, and he's suspended from a tree upside down above the car. So yeah, that's where that noise came from. She found out that, it was him hanging upside down and scratching the roof of the car. So
Yes, yeah, I love that episode. I loved all
me
like
too.
I love all the episodes of Supernatural that I've seen thus
Oh
far.
God, yes.
But the early seasons are my favorite because they have so much urban
Mhm.
legends in it. Whereas as the show
Mhm.
progresses, because of course it went on for 15 years, so
Yeah.
as the show progresses, they kind of run out of like urban legends to do, and it kind of gets more plot driven. But those early seasons were my favorite because it had so many urban legends such as the Hookman. I believe that episode was, you said season one, it was around episode 7.
It was episode 7. Yep. It
Mm,
was called Hookman.
yes, I was like, oh, I know this one.
Right? Oh, it's one of my favorites. Season 1 babies. We love them.
Yes,
They
it's and the Hookman, the it, I can't do this without giggling. It's even been parodied in cartoons such as SpongeBob. On season 2, episode 16, there was an episode where SpongeBob and Squidward worked the late shift, and Squidward tells SpongeBob this story about the hash slinging slasher.
Squidward's
Um,
like, I'm so fed up with you, SpongeBob. Like, you've annoyed me all day. You know what? Like, I'm gonna scare the crap out of you and be a jerk.
Yeah, so then he ends up get scaring himself, and he's like, the lights will flicker on and off,
Yeah, exactly. And then he
and the
said the
phone will ring, and
walls
there'll be
would
no one
like,
there.
didn't he say the walls would start like leaking or something? Like it was something weird. It was like they would start like running. I'm gonna
You get
like
green
running.
slime, green
Yeah,
slime.
yeah,
But I
that's what
think,
it was.
yeah, but
Uh-huh.
I think he was like, no, they always do that, but it was something else. No, a bus would pull up, and that's when the bus
Yeah.
pulled up, and the
Hmm.
hash slinging slasher had like instead of the hook, he had the rusty spatula, so it was
Yeah,
kind of like,
exactly.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's cool. So even like introducing kids to, like, this kind of like, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's parody, it's still introducing them to, like, it's still influenced by a classic urban legend, which I thought was really cool. And actually, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna say I completely forgot about it because it is one of my favorite episodes of SpongeBob,
Mhm.
but it's just like I never, up until this point, I never thought about it
I never would have
being,
thought of it
yeah.
being like related to the Hookman, like, and now that I like think of like, when you see the hash slinging slashers figure, you see like, the fish with the like fishing gear on, and you're like, oh, like it's all gonna click in your head, guys, and you'll be like, oh yeah, like the spatula was supposed to be the hook, and then like, you're welcome.
Yes, so you guys didn't get that. You're not alone. We didn't get it either.
Mhm. Exactly. We're in this together.
Yeah, so like so the Hookman is like definitely one of my favorites. Like you said, definitely. I'm not gonna say it was made up. I'm not gonna
No,
say I'm not gonna say it
no.
was made up to kind of like to deter, like, teenagers from partaking in sexual activities, but it really does seem like it.
I know. Like I was actually going to mention just to touch base a little bit more on the supernatural episode just because it's so long and there's many parts to it, but just to like simplify it, they find out that there's a reverend and like he had a hook and everything like in his house. Well, he becomes like possessed by this crazy preacher like Jacob Carnes, and like the reverend is just like super, I don't want to say like old fashioned, but I mean he doesn't believe in loose morals, and
He's kind
you
of like
know
a fire and brimstone type.
Yes, yeah. And when he finds out that his daughter was kind of like macking with this kid, he kind of takes things a little out of proportion, and he starts, he was praying and it turned out to be the wrong entity, like, and because the hook was there with Jacob Karn's spirit, he kind of like, gets lost in the he just becomes very lost, and Jacob Karn's spirit is just like out for vengeance. And of course, Sam and Dean solve it. Like Sam looks into the lore, and then like it's like, hey, it's an easy thing. Like we can just salt and burn, the body and everything once they find his remains. So it was a pretty easy case for them. But I just found that interesting that, like, this spirit, Jacob Carnes, who was a man who actually murdered prostitutes and stuff, kind of like Jack the Ripper, like, is the
Yeah.
spirit that ends up possessing, like, a reverend who's supposed to be like, a sweet guy, like not you wouldn't think he would like be killing people, but entities, and they can really do some damage.
This is very true. This is very true, and this owns back into what we said earlier. Please do not meddle into things you do not understand.
Yes, please. Like it's fine to be fascinated. Just don't like jump headfirst into it. I mean, I'm doing the same. Like I'm not doing anything like that. Like unless I do my research and talk to experts.
Yes, yes, you don't want to, like, unleash the darkness.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, we don't want that. God's sister can stay put.
It's just that was I couldn't resist. I couldn't, 'cause that's the season I'm on right now. I'm just
Mhm,
starting it.
mhm,
But I'm just like, because don't get me wrong, I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but it's just like it's a lot, and I'm on season 11 and still have 4 seasons to go. Well, technically five. So I'm just at the beginning. I'm like,
mhm,
I'm watching a whole other show at this point because I have 5 more seasons. But it's been so worth it. I think it's remarkable. It's legendary. I don't think there will ever be another show that will be as successful as Supernatural
mhm,
continues to be. I'm not going to say was. It continues to be. successful because you have people that weren't even born when it came out. Oh my
Right.
goodness, we're
And now,
old.
like,
We're old.
yeah, no, like, I'm like, yeah, I grew up with them. I was a teen watching it and everything. I remember watching reruns on TNT and I would just be like I'd be so excited. I would check the TV guide every time I could try to find a supernatural episode. And then, they started out on Warner Brothers, then TNT took them, and then also CW became their permanent home. So like, yeah, they were all over on the channels and I loved it. It was the best.
Yes, yes, and like I said, it's just remarkable. And then like you have um the Winchesters that actually comes out this week.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't wait to watch it.
I know it's gonna be on my DVR because I'm definitely gonna have to like sit down and come up with a schedule to finish Supernatural because I don't want to. Surprisingly, I haven't gotten any spoilers. Like the fandom is really well about not spoiling things. Like they say they don't put a lot of things up for the last couple of seasons because people are just now starting to watch and I want them to come across it. So the fandom is really really great in
Mhm.
that respect that they're not putting up things that are going to spoil it.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, because it's a lot that happens and everything. So yeah, you just have to like experience it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
It's a ride. That's all I'll say. I
Yes, it's just I don't know. I mean, I always want to give the Winchesters a shot is because I do trust Jensen, so I'm like, okay, I trust you. I'll watch it. But
yeah.
I cannot stand John and Mary.
Yeah, no, I can't either. Definitely, especially after like season 12, I
Mm-hmm.
was so done. But that's another story that
Yeah.
you'll get into.
Yes, I'll be texting you and I'll be like, "Say, I can't believe this."
Right? I'm waiting till you like encounter Cassifer, but
I love Misha, I do. But with the Winchesters, like I said,
Mhm,
I think that they'll find a way to make it work. Like they'll find a way. Hopefully, they may even try to redeem them. I don't know how they're gonna do that,
mhm.
but because at this point, at this point, like me, I can't. Whenever I see Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I get triggered. Like I just
I mean, my thing is, I don't see them as bad before they were parents. Like, everybody kind of loses their way. So, like, I try to keep an
this
open,
is true.
like, events kind of drove John to be the POS that he is. It's a hard subject for me, but I mean, in a way, like I'm kind of quoting Jensen on this, like he did the best he could with the state of mind and how he
Mhm.
felt at the time, but in
Yeah.
the same sense, it was I don't agree with that at all. But
Well, my mom actually told me something recently that when she was listening. I don't know if was on TikTok or listening to a podcast or where she got it from, but like it really resonated. It can resonate with anyone, especially if they're a parent.
Mhm.
And when she told me, she said, when parents are raising children, people have to understand that their parents are learning too.
Yeah.
Like when they're being parents, they're learning everything for the first time being parents. So it's just like they're entitled to make mistakes. They're entitled to do this stuff. So okay, well, I can
Mhm.
kind of look at that like but okay, well, John was learning too,
Mhm.
being a father, and on top of like all the circumstances that happen. I mean, usually you're not gonna have your spouse burn on the ceiling, like
Yeah, that's very traumatizing. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe it just, I don't know, destroyed him and he just like became, a shell of a person. Just like, I mean, just how Jensen had put it, that John shaped a lot of his character, and everything. Like when you see Dean in the earlier seasons, he literally is like a carbon copy of John a little bit. I mean, a
hmm
better version, but like macho and
hmm
like that's what Jensen had said. He was trying to like emulate, I think that's the right word, like to be like Jeffrey Dean Morgan because like that was Dean's like hero because he taught him everything, like even though it was like tough love and stuff. Like
This is true because when they found what's his name, Adam,
yeah,
It's not funny, but it was so funny. The whole like concept behind it is not because like
Mm,
him having a whole other son not telling them,
right.
but for Dean to find out there was a whole other son that was treated better than
Right.
Sam
It's
was
a
treated.
different case too. Like they find out that way, or actually it wasn't a case. It was because of Michael and everything, and just
Hmm.
clues leading up to them. Like I was like, oh my God, what?
I know, but the reason why I was laughing was because like when even though Dean had like the silver on the table and he had the holy water in the glass, he still had his gun. I was like, he's trying to shoot this guy in the kneecaps.
Yeah, no, he didn't put his gun down when he was like, after he did all the tests, like to prove that you're actually not a monster. He was just pissed because he still had his gun out. That was funny.
And I was just
For
like, he took him to baseball
Adam,
games and
like Adam was innocent,
he
like
was.
I, God, poor Adam. Like he was trapped in hell. Like, guys, oh my God, we might have to do a supernatural podcast because I swear I just get so
Yeah, because as you guys can tell, we're avid lovers of this show because we literally just like went. You guys, if you guys have stuck with us this far, bless you.
yes, bless you guys. If for any reason y'all want us to ramble a little less, just let us know too. We want to put out content that you guys will like, and we don't want to get sidetracked, which I'm guilty of. We both are. We just kind of get into something. We just
Yes, like the thing is, we get into something and then we forget that we're like you guys are still listening,
yeah,
but
we're so excited. We're just like, oh yeah, and then this, and then that, and then oh my gosh, yeah. Like, yeah.
yes, exactly. Yes, but this has been an episode on Hell's Gate Bridge, Oxford, Alabama, the Hookman, and Supernatural.
Yeah, it really was. And I was like, I'm gonna like briefly tie up this like part of the episode because it's one of I just thought it was a really interesting spin with the preacher being possessed by like this naughty man who killed prostitutes and stuff. Like I just found that really interesting, like you were talking about with the whole vengeance thing. Like maybe he was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna kill the people who are like immorally having sex. Like, just crazy how that all kind of tied in a little bit with what we talked about.
Hmm. Yes, and it's so true. Like it wasn't until like I said, the 90s where they kind of broke that trope in horror movies. Like, like especially in Friday the 13th, because that's kind of the whole basis of Friday the 13th, like Jason drowned because the counselors weren't watching him because they were too busy having sex. They weren't watching him.
Right. So in
Um,
that case, I mean, I don't want to say they deserved it, but I get where Jason's mom was coming from.
yes. And then you had Michael Myers, like for Halloween, they died. Like, in every single movie, but in the 90s, you have Sydney who having ends up having sex with Billy and she doesn't die. So they kind of get, even though they mentioned that trope in the movie,
Mhm.
that's the first time that for me that the trope was kind of broken. I guess they kind of tried to move away from those old fashioned ideals because you gotta look at um a lot of the early movies like the 70s and 80s movies were based on like the classic urban legends and
Yeah, yeah,
they
that makes
yeah
sense. Mm-hmm.
and they were also written by people who grew up in that time where they were told that growing up, so they kind of kept those things going. For
Mm-hmm.
the first time it wasn't included with Sydney, which I thought
Mm-hmm.
was really really great. And because like I said, you don't want people to have like a negative like aspect. And then there's this other movie, oh my goodness, I'm just gonna this last part is just gonna be miscellaneous. If you guys want to stay with us, you can.
Yeah.
There's this movie called They Follow or something like that. It's on
No,
Netflix.
It
Have you ever seen it?
Follows, right? Or is it Follows? Because
It Follows.
yeah,
Yes, It Follows. Yes.
love it. Oh my God, that movie, guys, traumatized me because, like, oh my God, it's so real. Like, this entity can be anything, and it's pretty much like a supernatural STD.
Hmm.
And, like, it's about essentially like the premise is like you open yourself up to evil, like, and you don't even know it. Like, you
Hmm.
sleep with someone and then you get like their supernatural STD, and that entity follows you, and it's just this ominous feeling because that entity is
Yes.
like constantly after you. You just don't know when it's going to get you. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, like, So good, but
It
so
was. It
scary.
was, but a lot of people say it was symbolic, like the whole movie was symbolic for STDs in general. But like,
Right.
okay, that's kind of like a boring take. I mean, I can understand like how it could be, but like,
I mean,
I
you
think
gotta be careful too, y'all. So
this is very true. I'm not telling everybody to go out here and
no,
just,
she's
you know,
not. We're totally not saying that. It's just like it's you just use your judgment and everything.
yes, and it also plays in the fact that a lot of beliefs, a lot of people believe that when you do sleep with someone, like you're opening yourself up to their demons and all the stuff they have attached to them, because it's like an exchange of energy, like you're exchanging energy with someone.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's also where that film kind of plays into, and it's like the first film that depicted that. I'm like, that's great, because that's just like a lot of people's like, I'm in no way, shape, or form judging anybody. Like, you want to, throw it out left and right. I don't care, whatever makes you happy. But that's why personally I don't, because I do believe that energies can transfer,
Mhm.
and I don't want any negative energy over here. Like, I'm
You do. Yeah.
um
Honestly, that movie kind of made me abstain from sex a bit. I was like, dude, not really feeling it after that.
like,
Like,
no, please don't touch me.
yeah, I'd be like, do I need to like whisper Christo and like get some holy water? And I mean, that's totally just supernatural, like things they do. It's
Yes.
all bullshit. So I
It's
mean,
all gonna come back to well, no, 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 no. Salt does help.
yeah, salt does. That's true. I always keep salt, so I mean, it's good protection.
Yes, I have salt. I have salt. I have
It
like
just
rock salt
doesn't
on my
like
porch.
fry demons, though. I don't think like it shows in Supernatural where they're like freaking bubbling, like steaming.
It's so true though. But I did love It Follows. Like, it was just like really great. And then I don't want to give it away for anybody who wants to watch it, but like,
Yeah,
definitely it's definitely worth the watch. I've been told about it for years, and one day
still.
I eventually sat down and watched it.
Mm-hmm. I did. I'd put into off and I was like talking to Bree and I was like, I should watch this, but like I'm freaked out about the premise. But I'm like, I'm gonna watch it though. And I did, and oh, it's so good, but so creepy. But if you guys like love it, I mean the idea I'm saying, like watch it. It's good.
Yes, definitely. I think we should go ahead, because we kind of did ramble a little bit, but it's all good. Like, at
Well,
this
it's all
point,
right,
just expect
guys.
that from us.
Yeah, we'll try to like just keep it at the end of the episode if you guys actually want to hear us prattle on. But yeah.
Yes, we just call it ramblings at the end. Like, whatever thoughts flow into our head, we just save that for the end of the episode for futures going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we'll do that because we don't want to like, keep you guys from the story and, like get off subject and you're like, okay, like rein it in. That's enough supernatural or, that's which I'm sorry, there's never enough supernatural,
Isn't
but
this the truth? Like, there's 15 years worth of content. Like,
yeah, I love it so much. It worries some of my friends and family, but it's okay. They can get over it.
yes, they're gonna have to.
Yeah, they are. It makes me happy. So,
It's like I told you, like um when I was younger.
mhm.
See, I'm supposed to be closing out this episode, but I'm just gonna leave y'all with one little bit. When I was younger, my grandma would watch soaps, and Jensen was on the soap opera, and I remember the day I saw him, and I always joke and say he's the reason why I have bad eyesight, because would paste my face to the TV. My girl was like, "Back up!" I was like, "No, I have to see."
Right? He's so gorgeous. He is still to this day. Good
This
Lord.
is very true. I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Then of course, like with I was just kind of watching them my whole entire life. Like, even though I didn't watch them in Supernatural, but just because I was misled, which I got into last episode.
Mhm.
I used to watch Charmed, which Misha was on for a bit. I love Charmed, and then
He's such
I
a
had a
cutie.
yeah. So then my then my best friend growing up, she loved Gilmore Girls, and still loves to this day, still loves Jared.
Our
And
pet. I love
yeah, so I got to watch, like, I've just kind of watched them my whole entire life, like,
it.
so.
I know. I can't wait to tell them that one day. That is if I don't like pass out when I actually do see Misha Collins and
We're gonna sound like a bunch of creepers. I've watched you my whole life.
I'd be like, oh my God, like how are you guys real? You're so fine.
Okay, okay, we gotta reel it in because we're gonna
Let's
we're gonna go. We're
this note, guys. We are not, we can do a podcast about that if you would like, but like
yeah,
about supernatural and its cast and whatnot, because trust me, we could definitely talk about it.
yes,
But yeah, we had such a fun time, like, unpacking all this lore and origins and, just like people's accounts and like stories and legends. It's been awesome.
yes, yes, and like I said, we're gonna be back every week. We're still trying to figure out the schedule that we want to do because since this being October, I kind of want to maybe do look at maybe doing like maybe 2 episodes a week to kind of like balance out the amount of content that we have to put out. But don't hold me to that, guys. If that changes, we would definitely let you all know.
Mhm.
But until then, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode before something else pops into one of our brains and we ramble on for another 15 minutes.
Yes, sorry guys. I mean, I hope you were like entertained and not like, oh man, like they're taking forever. Like, and they're talking about stuff besides like what we were supposed to talk about. Like,
I know, but like I said, I'm gonna like this is ramblings. Now I'll be sure to put this Sarah on the Instagram notes as well. I was like, you don't at this point it's just rambling. You want to, listen, you
enter
can,
a
but
risk.
yes. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off. But thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you made it this far, we greatly appreciate it. If not, we definitely understand. But we'll be back next week for another episode and more bizarre things.
Yes, guys, stay spooky, carry on, and enjoy your week. Bye.
Bye, guys. Stay bizarre.